Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you, and it's time for the new Strike of Justice pack. As always, we're going to be reviewing every one of these UR cards in the pack so that you know what all decks they're used for, how strong they're going to be, and how many copies you'll need. Very excited for this pack as it has a ton of themes and I'm excited for each and every one of them. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right on into this. K9X Werewolf is going to be the boss monster of the new K9 archetype, and it's got a very, very powerful effect it's got a couple of different effects, but the main one you're probably going to see a lot is when it's activated during the opponent's turn, you can look at your opponent's hand and banish a card from it until the end phase. So it's a hand rip ability that can disrupt the opponent during their turn as a quick effect. Very, very strong, and even though the K9 deck doesn't have any level 9 monsters, of course they can still use their spell and trap cards to sort of rank up their rank 5s into a rank 9. So for K9 decks of pretty much every variety, you're gonna want one copy of this card. Just need the one, because again, we go into it through our spell and trap cards, and it's just our big boss monster. Again, we normally summon it on the opponent's turn, so the one copy is all you need, but definitely make sure you have it. It is a very powerful part of the K9 deck. K966A Jokol. This is going to be one of the starters for the new K9 archetype. Very useful for not only its own build, but pretty much every single variant. And honestly, just about any deck that plays level 5 monsters. Of course, that's why it works so well with Vanquish Soul, with the new Holisu, and Crystron with the Sulfador. So you'll want two copies of this for, again, pretty much every single K9 deck. It's only 2 because it's coming into Master Duel semi-limited, right? If it were coming in at 3, we'd definitely want 3 copies, but since it's semi-limited, grab your 2 copies, but definitely probably the most important card. The only build you wouldn't play it in is if you're just using the K9 Izunas as a hand trap. Then you don't really need this, but yeah, for any like dedicated K9 deck, you're definitely going to want a couple of copies for sure. K917 Izuna is going to be a very powerful monster within the K9 strategy. This card is really interesting because it's not only a 3 of in K9 decks, but in theory, you could play 3 of this in just about anything, alongside Lupus, another K9 monster, and any rank 5 monster you want to make. See, the Lupus, once you send it from the deck to the graveyard off the Izuna effect, can special summon itself and then also Exceed Summon as a quick effect, meaning Izuna is effectively a hand trap that allows you to make rank 5 monsters during your opponent's turn, which has a lot of good potential use. There's a lot of different decks you could use it as a hand trap in. Yummy is actually one of the more prominent ones, but I've seen it show up in Dracotale lists as well. Really, again, it could be anything. But of course, Izuna is also going to be a 3 of, as I mentioned, in every single dedicated K9 deck. Not only acting as a hand trap, but also in a lot of ways acting as hand trap insurance. For example, right? Let's say you normal summon Dr. Madlove and you're playing K9 Vanquish Soul and they activate Ash Blossom to negate it. Well, since they've used a monster effect from hand, now you can special summon Izuna, dump the Lupus. Again, Lupus will summon itself off its own effect, go into Ripper, and now all of a sudden you can full combo even through a hand trap. So very, very good card, and definitely expect to see this around a lot in the upcoming meta. K917 Ripper is going to be a rank 5 monster for the K9 archetype, and a very powerful one at that. It's both a searcher that can set up your K9 plays. It also acts as a disruption tool as well, having the ability to negate monster effects that are activated in the hand or graveyard. And this, of course, includes hand traps. So, in a lot of K9 plays, you can always be Nibiru-proof as long as you make the Ripper on your 5th summon, which really is not that difficult to do. Also, if you did get hand trapped and then go into Ripper, you even get a bonus set of a quick play spell on top of your search for the first effect. Just a really strong monster overall. I'll say 1 to 2 copies of this card, In a lot of dedicated canine decks, you should probably be on 2. Like Canine Vanquish Soul, it's probably a good idea to be on 2. But you could get away with 1, and there are some builds that choose to play 1. You could, in theory, even just hold on to a single copy and use it with Izuna in, generic decks, right? If you want to use Izuna and Lupus as a hand trap, and then go into Ripper and then negate card effects that activate in the hand or graveyard. Most people don't do that. Most people in like TCG and OCG will make Valen instead. But that is an option if you really wanted to. But that said, for the most part, you're just going to see the Ripper in dedicated canine decks where, again, 1 to 2 copies is recommended. A case for Canine. So this card is the searcher for the deck. Not only does it search up one of your canine monsters on activation, but when it's destroyed, you can set a canine quick play spell from your deck. And that's a lot easier to set up than you might think. Usually with the Masquerade Umbral Horror, you're going to be destroying it with the on-summon effect as you cheat it out through Nosh Knight and CXE's Nosh Knight to then set up your, again, Canine Quick Play spell from the deck. This card is really interesting because you really could play any number from 1 to 3 copies. It just kind of depends what canine, not just what canine deck you're playing, but also what your build looks like, right? Now, I will say, since Jokel is coming into the game semi-limited, you're probably going to lean more on like playing 2 to 3 of this in a lot of builds to be able to search up that Jokel. But I did see, quite a few builds for Vanquish Soul and Crystron that were only playing a single copy. So it's very flexible in that regard. So if you want to try out Canine and you're not super sure and you only pull 1 copy of this, that's fine. You can sit on the 1 copy, and then if you decide you want more copies to make your deck more consistent because you like playing this deck and you want to keep it, then you could consider crafting a second or even a third one. But definitely sees play, though. It sees play in at least 1 copy in pretty much every single like dedicated Canine deck. Next up, we have Boral Shroud Dragon, which is going to be the Link 5 new boss monster for the Rokket/Dragon Link deck. Really, Rokket is evolving into its own deck, as opposed to Dragon Link, which also needed you to add mainly the Romulus for the Ravine, right? When we're thinking of like the generic sort of dragon support that it offers. But as the deck is continuing to evolve, we really don't need that support. So Rokket really is becoming its own more dedicated deck. I'm going to say Rokket/Dragon Link and kind of use them interchangeably, but just know I'm basically talking about the same deck. This is a great boss monster for it. Lets you negate your opponent's card effects, can't be responded to, which is always nice on a negate effect. Also, in particular, when you battle, you can even cheat out other huge Link monsters. Well, Link 4 or lower could be really any, but potentially summing out a Link 4 Boral monster from your extra deck is a pretty huge buff. So yeah, I think this card is really good, and I think this new wave of support for the Rokket/Dragon Link strategy is really good in general. Definitely expect to see this around, and definitely expect to see Boral Shroud Dragon played as a one-of in this deck. Rokket Loader is going to be a new card for the Rokket deck. I'll say Rokket/Dragon Link because I'm going to kind of use those interchangeably. They're essentially, they play the same way. They're basically the same deck, but yeah, just a very good starter for the deck, as it lets you add a level 7 Dark Dragon monster from your deck to your hand. That's of course going to be the Absorautor Dragon, which can special summon itself if you control a Rokket monster, and then when it's sent to the graveyard, you can then add a Rokket monster from deck to hand. Previously, you would need to use Dragon Ravine to set this up, and that's what Dragon Link kind of was, right? But Rokket Loader is really what lets the deck start to be more of a dedicated Rokket strategy, not necessarily having to involve the Dragon Ravine, which is kind of why they're the same but different, right? Again, Dragon Link is kind of more with the Ravine and other generic dragon stuff, or more generic dragon stuff, I should say. Whereas, again, Rokket Loader lets you play a dedicated Rokket strategy. But definitely a 3-of. You're definitely going to want 3 copies, as it is a very important starter for your dragon deck. Vanquish Soul Holly Sue is a very, very powerful addition to the Vanquish Soul archetype. This and the new field spell completely, in just those 2 cards alone, change the deck's playstyle for the more powerful. Basically, Holly Sue is useful not only as like a sort of starter for the deck, but also a hand trap, because it can special summon it during the main phase as a quick effect. So during your opponent's turn, you could either use the Earth and Dark effects to take control of a monster that they control to interrupt their plays. But even if you don't have an Earth monster and you have Fire and Dark, you can still special summon Vanquish Raisin from your deck to the column of the monster you want to destroy, then reveal the Fire and the Dark for Raisin to pop a monster. And of course, when you special summon Raisin, you'll get to search as well. Yeah, any Vanquish Soul deck is going to want to play 3 copies of this card. Absolutely. Now, granted, I think Canine Vanquish Soul is probably going to be just about the only variant you see. I mean, you could play the deck pure, but it's like, there's really no reason not to play them with Canine. So, yeah, but for any Vanquish Soul deck, definitely make sure you've got a full playset of 3 copies of Holly Sue. Live Twin Leela Sweet is a very sweet addition for the Live Twin deck. Basically, it is another free extender, but it also has a very useful like anti-hand trap / negate effect. You can discard it to negate any card or effect that is activated in response to your Live Twin card. Note that it does specify Live Twin, so it won't work if they chain to your Evil Twin Link monsters, but yeah, very, very good addition for the deck for sure. You're definitely going to want at least 1 copy. Every build should be playing at least 1. I found a couple that were on 2, but I don't think that that's like super necessary at all. I'm going to recommend 1, but again, I did see a couple of the builds that were playing 2, so I'll say 1 to 2. But if you only pull the 1 and don't want to craft another one, I don't think you need to. Junk Warrior Extreme is going to be the boss monster of the new Junk Warrior based deck. These cards can also technically be used in and also to support Synchron as well, but this is really more of its own dedicated strategy where rather than spamming out a bunch of Synchro monsters and ending on like 5 negates, rather you are going for a Junk Warrior OTK strategy, and this is kind of the centerpiece of it, right? So when this is summoned, it revives a bunch of level 2 monsters, and then you battle over something, summon out the original Junk Warrior, and note that this is treated as a Synchro summon in particular. This is important because Junk Warrior gains the attack points of all your level 2 or lower monsters when it is specifically Synchro summoned. This archetype also searches a lot of cards that mention Junk Warrior by name, including Scrap Fist, which has a bunch of effects that help you battle and finish your opponent off in 1 strike. That said, I don't really think that strategy is that good. This is a struggle for me because I really, really like Synchro decks, and especially Yusei Fudo's decks. But that said, I don't even know if I could call this strategy rogue. It really is leaning more towards casual. I will be a little generous and call it lower rogue, but I don't think you're going to see it that much. Again, some of these cards in theory could be used to support Synchron, but they're not really that effective there either. Well, some of them are. We'll see which ones we end up getting as the pack is released. But all in all, for Junk Warrior Extreme and the Junk Warrior OTK strategy, for that deck, you would want a single copy of this card. But in general, I don't really think I can recommend that deck very highly. Junkmeister is a new card for the Junk archetype, but unlike the Junk Warrior Synchro monster in this pack, this card is actually very useful for Synchron, extremely useful. It finally gives the deck something it's been needing for a long time, which is a 1-card starter. You can special summon this card from your hand by its own effect, then on summon you can add a Junk card from deck to your hand, including the level 1 Junk Synchron. And this, of course, being level 4, makes for an extremely fast and easy way to go into the Junk Speeder. So yeah, that's really, really nice. Previously, like I mentioned before, Synchron was all 2-card combos. Playing the Adventure engine was pretty much required, but moving forward, the deck has a lot more options thanks to cards like Junkmeister. Now, as much as I love Synchron, I can't call the deck any better than Rogue, because I really don't think it's going to be tiered. I don't think it's quite that good, but it is nice that they're at least attempting to modernize it in some way. And if you are a Synchron enthusiast like myself, you're definitely going to want to pick up a playset of this card for that deck. Topologic Blaster Dragon is a new generic Cyber's Link 5 monster. The materials are only 2 or more effect monsters, so it's something you could potentially very easily summon off of like IP Masquerena. It's kind of like the other Topologic Link monsters, where it's got some really good disruption effects based on if monsters are summoned to a zone a Link monster points to. In this case, you can either shuffle back all monsters or all spell and trap cards in the field into the deck, or look at your opponent's extra deck and rip a card from it by banishing it too, which is pretty good. That said, I think if you're going to go for IP targets, there are definitely better things out there. Even in the world of Link 5s, there's like the Underworld Goddess, which can use one of your opponent's monsters as material. There's the, of course, SP Little Knight. There's the Gorgon of Xylofthonia. This thing is not bad, but compared to the other IP options, it requires too many of your own monsters to make and is still pretty situational after that, right? If your opponent can manage to avoid summoning into zones, or if they do it early enough, then they don't really have to worry about this card's effect. So I wouldn't recommend this card necessarily. If you pull one, you could try keeping it and trying it out, but I think as far as like IP targets go, there are much better options out there. Alright, that has been the review for the Strike of Justice Selection Pack. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to hugely shake up the meta, and as I mentioned before, has multiple themes that I'm looking forward to playing all of them. So definitely let me know what you think of this pack in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching. That's going to do it for now, so let's go ahead and move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.